Okay, yeah, 13. This is just a quick video that will help with your knowledge of muscular contraction, flexibility, and then also the makeup of a muscle. It also includes a bit of sliding filament theory as well. So hopefully you'll find this all really useful as a bit of a crossover with certain things as well. So there's three key words on the screen there for you at the minute: the sarcomere, the myosin, and the actin. And you will have heard this last year. Actin and myosin are proteins that are part of filaments within the muscle myofibrils, and the sarcomere basically is the kind of the section of the muscle. It's the basic section of the muscle. So when you go on to see the two, you'll see two Z lines. The sarcomere is the bit in between. I'll talk through that once the video's played a little bit. The example that is often used is the bicep, and if you think about the bicep having up to about 100,000 sarcomere, it's the basic section, and you'll see how that works a little bit more on the video. So if you just watch this through, and I'll pause it at different points.
You use muscles every day to do activities. This woman is using muscles to breathe, circulate blood, and move her hand to take notes. Your cardiac and smooth muscle tissues are involuntary. You do not consciously control their actions. Skeletal muscle works under voluntary control. Skeletal muscles are composed of bundles of muscle fibers. Muscle fibers are long cylindrical cells containing several...
Just pause it there. It would be worth you taking a screenshot of this so that you can include it into your notes.
Nuclei. Muscles will contract or relax when they receive signals from the nervous system. Muscle fibers are composed of many myofibrils. A myofibril contains contractile units called sarcomeres.
Again, this is all things that would probably be useful for you to have images of.
Sarcomeres run adjacent to one another down the length of the myofibril. Each sarcomere consists of alternating thick and thin protein filaments, giving skeletal muscle its striated appearance.
Striated just means striped or grooved.
The muscle contracts when these filaments slide past each other. The thick filaments are myosin, which are anchored at the center of the sarcomere, called the M line. The thin filaments are composed of the protein actin, which are anchored to the Z lines on the outer edges of the sarcomere. Because the actin filaments are anchored to the Z lines, the sarcomere shortens from both sides when actin filaments slide along the myosin filaments. Although the action between the filaments is described as sliding, the myosin filament actually pulls the actin along its length. The cross bridges of the myosin filaments attach to the actin filaments and exert force on them to move. This action is known as the sliding filament mechanism of muscle contraction. In this model, the sarcomeres shorten without the thick or thin filaments changing in length. A contraction begins when a bound ATP is hydrolyzed to ADP and inorganic phosphate. This causes the myosin head to extend and can attach to a binding site on actin, forming a cross bridge. An action called the power stroke is triggered, allowing myosin to pull the actin filament toward the M line, thereby shortening the sarcomere. ADP and inorganic phosphate are released during the power stroke. The myosin remains attached to actin until a new molecule of ATP binds, freeing the myosin to either go through another cycle of binding and more contraction, or remain unattached to allow the muscle to relax.
That's really important. So what you're basically seeing there is how a muscle can contract, and you'll know from GCSE and last year that muscles can only pull. Yeah, they contract to pull things towards them. And what you've got there is the ongoing release of ATP, ADP to make energy for further contraction, and then without that what you've seen is the myosin and the actin releasing and then going back to a relaxed state.
As the actin and myosin slide along each other, the entire sarcomere shortens as the Z lines draw closer to the M line. As the sarcomeres in myofibrils contract, the entire muscle fiber will shorten. When muscle fibers contract in unison, a muscle can produce enough force to move the body, allowing you to take notes.
Okay, so final word, take notes. What I want from you, please, that there's a lot of info in that video. It's a really useful video, but you need to understand it. You need to get your notes down about it. I've taken out any extra bits that are irrelevant. That's all going to be really useful for you in terms of muscle structure. And what I want you to do, please, and this is how we'll start next lesson, is I want you to describe how flexibility training program, how that will impact on what you've just seen. Okay, so how would a flexibility training program impact on what you've just seen in that video in terms of muscular contraction and the makeup of a muscle? Okay, hope that all makes sense. Nice and short for tonight. You have got quite a lot of notes to do from that though, and like I say, probably you'll need some diagrams from it as well. Okay, thank you.